This is our studio.
What is up, guys? Welcome back to another video, and today I want to talk to you about 1 year of car ownership here in Medellin, Colombia. Now, last year in February I actually brought my car, and since then I have not regretted it. So in this video I want to go over a few things that I think you might need to know or would like to know about car ownership here in Colombia. Ultimately, I decided to get a car because I was spending somewhere around $300 to $400 a month on Ubers and InDrives. Also, I wanted to be able to explore a little bit more of Colombia and be able to see places like the Pueblos, and then also go to Guatapé and just other places in general without having to actually rent a car. So the first thing I want to start off with is, do I regret buying a car? And the answer is absolutely not. It's been something that actually has been much more of a tool in helping me with life here in Colombia versus something that's a hindrance. Now, it can be crazy at times with driving here, but ultimately you do get used to it very quickly and you learn the way of the road. So I decided to buy a 2025 Kia K4, and the reason why I decided to buy this car instead of buying something used is because ultimately I know that a lot of people do not really take care of their cars here, or in general, not just here, it can be anywhere, but I wanted something that had a warranty and that I knew that was going to be well taken care of, or had some type of manufacturer warranty. Now, what I do want to state is this, is that the used car market is very high. So to buy a used car here, at least what I was looking at, something that maybe had around 30,000 kilometers, it was only like a 2 or 3, maybe at the most $4,000 discount, or lower than what actually buying that same car new would be. So it just made more sense to me to just go ahead, pull the trigger and buy a new car, since I had the funds available. So in other ways a car has helped me here, besides getting from A to B, is having a car is a bit of a status symbol here. So yes, when it does come to dating, it does help that you can actually go to pick a girl up and drop her off. It is something that a lot of women like here, versus you just basically telling them to meet you somewhere. Not that ordering an Uber is bad, but you look a lot better when you can show up in your own personal vehicle that you own versus you having to order Ubers. Also, as I tell everybody, what helps here a lot is if you have something called anchors. Owning a vehicle is having an anchor. It's something that shows women here, or in general, it shows people that you are serious about being here in Colombia and you're not just the weekend warrior. You're not just here for a weekend or something that is short term. You actually are trying to plant roots here. So yes, it does help in more ways than one to actually have a car versus it just getting you from A to B. I do actually love my car, the 2025 Kia K4 GT line. It looks sporty enough. It's not very fast. Unfortunately, it is a V4, but in general, in Colombia, you're not going to be hitting top speeds of 100, 120 miles an hour. For me, I just wanted something that looked sporty, that had a nice appeal to it, but also had all the modern tech that I wanted. There were some other cars that I looked at that were options, but these cars did not have the latest tech. Like, for example, one of them didn't have USB-C ports for charging the phone. One of them had a kind of crappy entertainment system. With the Kia K4 GT line, this one had everything, and I get a lot of compliments on this car, believe it or not just from men, but from women as well. Practically everybody who's seen my car, and even some foreigners and clients that I've hosted here in Colombia, have said, wow, you have a really nice car. So here in Colombia, you don't actually need a Mercedes or something like that. Just having a car alone is enough. In this year of ownership, I've probably put about 8,000 kilometers on my car, a little over 8,000 kilometers, coming up on 10,000 kilometers. And to be honest, if I didn't make the 2 long road trips that I've made this year, it would be a lot less. So in this year, I've managed to drive down to the coffee region twice, once to Pereira, and then also once to Salento. If you come to Colombia, you definitely need to go there. I've also been able to go to Guatapé a few times whenever I want, and then as well to other parts and pueblos close to, or in Antioquia, but close to Medellin, within 45 minutes to 2 hours away. Now, I highly recommend, if you plan on living in Colombia long term, getting a car. Not just for the reasons that I've stated in this video, but it is a major convenience in your life here, and it does help a lot. Now, let's talk about the cons. And to be honest, there aren't very many, but the major one that I can think of off the top of my head is going to be the driving here. It is a little bit difficult to get used to driving. The motorcycles are definitely a pain in the butt, but it is something that you get used to, or you have to understand that there are essentially 2 ecosystems of traffic here. There is cars, and then there is motorcycles. Motorcycles, which are going to run in between the cars, have their own traffic, and it is something that you have to get used to. You almost have to develop eyes in the back of your head, and you always have to be looking. Now, part of these cons. In the first week that I had my car, I got into 2 accidents in the same day. Nothing major, but yes, 2 accidents in the same day. My first accident was with a taxi where I was driving straight in my lane, kind of how my car is now, and a taxi, I guess, was trying to get over, and their mirror was too far over, and my mirror hit their mirror. Now, because I'm a gringo and my Spanish isn't the greatest, I essentially had to take responsibility for this accident, even though I don't think it was my fault. But yes, I had to take responsibility for that and pay for the damages of the other car. Now, here, they have 2 forms of insurance. One form of insurance is your actual insurance that you can pay for, and just like a normal insurance company in the United States, or they have cash, which most Colombians here will use cash. Once you get into an accident, you're going to stay where you are, which is one of the weirdest things to me, but you're going to stay in the spot where you got into the accident. You guys can talk it out, assess the damages, and see if you want to pay for it. From there, you can go straight to a body shop and try to figure it out, or you sort it out amongst yourselves. The second option you have is you can call what's called here is transito, which is the transportation police, and they can come and essentially help with getting things in order and sorting out the fault of which driver it is. Now, the second accident that I had was actually with a motorcycle. I was going to do a U-turn. When I looked, I didn't see anybody. And then right when I went to start going forward to finish out the U-turn, I hit a motorcycle. Now, a lot of the motorcycles here drive like they don't care about their lives, and this is definitely something you're gonna have to get used to. Now, as well, the other thing is in this accident, you know, we pulled over, we stopped, we talked. Luckily, I had a friend, a photographer friend of mine, who helped me with this accident, who spoke fluent Spanish, and pretty much the guy just wanted the money to fix his parts. Now, and he wasn't majorly injured. He had some bumps and bruises and some scrapes, but overall, he was okay. Now, my car, for the most part, I had this panel over here, the bottom panel, that was extremely messed up with some scraping on the lights. But I would say overall, this probably cost me maybe a couple $100s to fix. Now, if you're in the United States, you know that a fender bender with a heavy damage, not heavy damage, but let's say light to moderate damage to your bumper, you're gonna spend at least $1,000 to get that fixed if you're deciding to do it out of pocket, which I did. And in this case, it was probably around $200, $250 for me to fix everything. You look at the car now, you couldn't even tell that it's been in the accident. So this is part of the cons of driving here. Other than that, you have traffic. Traffic is horrible here in Medellin, and I hear it's worse in Bogota, but it is extremely bad here in Medellin between the hours of 4 and 8 p.m. Me personally, I try not to drive in those times, but yes, it is very, very bad in that time. So those are probably, in my opinion, the only cons of driving here in Medellin or in general in Colombia. In other parts of Colombia where it's less traffic, it's not as bad. Now, for me, I don't feel like I have a flashy car. Yes, it is considered a nice car here, but I don't feel like it's as flashy as having like a Mercedes or something. Also, another thing with tinted windows here, if you will see, I have all my windows tinted. It is legal here. Well, it's not officially legal, but in order for police to be able to enforce it, they need the meter that they have in the United States to check what is the percentage of tint or light that can get through a window, which they don't own here. So it can't be enforced, essentially, you having dark tinted windows, which everyone does. And one of the main reasons I got them was because I didn't want people to see in, one, for privacy, but two, I didn't want to be profiled. And then three, people driving by on motos and robbing here is a very common thing. So I didn't want anyone to see in the car with what I have on me, or if I'm holding something at the time, my phone, whatever it may be. These were my reasons for getting all my windows tinted. Now, as well, I just wanted my car to blend in as much as possible. But with my windows tinted, it kind of matches what everybody else is doing, and my car doesn't just stand out with plain white windows. So those were the reasons why I decided to get my windows tinted. Now, what is required here when you have a car, at least when I got my new car, it came with a kind of roadside assistant kit, which was just some little cones or pylons and a fire extinguisher. These are things that you have to keep inside of your car, so you do want to make sure you have that if you decide to buy a car here. Secondly, one thing you should know, or something to note, is that if you are doing road trips here, there are a lot of tolls, a lot of toll booths here, more than what I expected. I thought they would just be near tunnels or here and there, but there are a lot of toll booths here. So you do want to make sure you get something called Colombia Pass, or you want to get Go Pass, one of the two. I think it's called, or Fast Pass, one of the three. But what this essentially does is allow you to go through your toll booths without having to stop and pay in cash. What I did is I just connected my Davivienda card, my debit card, to my account. So that way I can just put money in on my account, and it will subtract it from my debit card and then ultimately from my account. So it just makes it easier when you are doing long road trips here versus having to pay cash. For me personally, I hate paying in cash. It's a pain in the ass, so I just don't like to do it. Lastly here, one thing that I do want to talk about is if you are going to drive here, you do need to have a Colombia driver's license. And if you are staying here more than 180 days, you can no longer use a foreign driver's license. You do need to obtain a Colombia driver's license. Now, in order to do that, you will need to have a visa, which ultimately will be able to get you a cedula, and you do need that cedula in order to get a driver's license, so you will need to get that first. So the process that I took is I just paid someone to do all the driving classes for me and tests, and that cost me somewhere around $450 to $500 at the time, which was last year. It is probably a little bit more now. But yes, you can pay somebody in order to get your Colombia's driver's license. You don't actually have to go through all the physical tests and driver's tests. Now, there are some health tests and like comprehension tests you do have to take, which would be hearing, sight, actual physical, and then a coordination test. These you do have to take in person. You cannot skip these or pay someone to take them, but they are very easy, and I do recommend that you get your driver's license if you are going to drive here. Don't try to drive illegally. If you get pulled over by Transito or the normal police, and definitely if you're taking any long road trips, they do have a lot of stops or checkpoints where they do check to make sure you have everything that you're supposed to have when driving. So just make sure you're legit. This way you don't have to worry about or stress about anything when driving here in Colombia. So that is it for this video. I appreciate you guys watching, and until the next one. And remember to travel, but travel safe.